Okay, so for today, I'm going to show you how to factorize a quadratic expression. Now, what's a quadratic expression? A quadratic expression over here can be expressed as x squared plus bx plus c. So I have 5 examples over here, and I'll show you how do I factorize a quadratic expression. Now let's look at question 1. Now very simple, I'm going to use a method which is called a table method. So that is the technique that we will be using for factorizing this. So first, ask yourself, all right, when I want to factorize, my final answer will have some brackets, okay? So your final answer will look something like this. All right, your final answer will look something like this, okay? So I'm going to show you how do I get this. Now, let's begin from here. How do I get x squared over here? What multiplied by what give you x squared? So there's only one option over here, which is going to be x multiplied with x. Correct or not? X times x, that will give you x squared, right? Now then over here, try to think about what pair of numbers which you will multiply together will give you 12. Now if you think they are actually more than one pair, right? Because I can think of 3 pairs over here. I can have 1 times 12, that's my one option. I can have 4 times 3, that's my other option. I can have 6 times 2, alright? I have this pair of numbers that multiply to give me 12. So which pair do I have to use in order to factorize this correctly? My suggestion for you is to don't stress about it. Just test out the first pair of numbers that you can think of, all right? So in this case, I would choose 4 and 3, all right? So let's just say I choose 4 and 3. This is the first pair of number I think of. So after I'm done with that, I will be drawing a table. So my table will look something like this over here, okay? So this zone over here is going to be the multiplication zone, all right? So I can check x times x, and true enough, that will give me x squared, which is this one. 4 times 3, which is true enough, that will give me 12. So this over here is the multiplication zone, all right? So what I'm going to do with these numbers over here, I'm going to cross multiply them. So it's going to look something like this. All right? Okay? Now, before I continue, you might be wondering, why do I have to cross multiply? Can't I just multiply horizontally? Now, in this example over here, I can't really explain it now, but in the next video, I'm going to tell you why do I multiply like that, okay? So, but for now, let's try to understand the concept first. So over here, what's going to happen? X times 4, that will give me 4x over here, right? X times 3, that's going to give me 3x over here. Now in this zone over here, that will be the addition zone, all right? This over here for me, I would like to think about this. This will be the addition zone. And can you see a big cross over here? That will be the multiplication zone, all right? So what do we have to do here? Now this one is going to be a very important step. You have to check now, 4x plus 3x. Do you get the middle term over here? All right, if you get the middle term, which is true enough, this will give me 7x, which means you factorize correctly, Okay, so therefore, what's your final answer? Over here? So my final answer, you're going to write your answer horizontally like this. So my final answer, I will write as x plus 4, and then my over here is x plus 3. So this is my final answer when I factorize this quadratic expression. Okay, now again, like similar to this x, now why do I have to write my answer horizontally, not following the arrow? In my next video, I'm going to explain it why. Okay, for now, just try to look through and understand this method first. Now you might be wondering now, what if I choose, I didn't choose 4 and 3, I chose 6 and 2. What will happen, right? If I choose 6 and 2, what will happen? Now let me show you what will happen if you choose 6 and 2, okay? Or maybe 12 and 1. But for this example, I'm going to choose 6 and 2 over here, right? So same thing over here, I'm going to write this down. So x, and if you choose 6 and 2 over here, so what's going to happen? Alright, we know over here that's going to give me x squared, this is going to give me 12, and when I cross multiply them, that will give me 6x, oh wrong color, that will give me 6x and 2x. Now we know that this is the addition zone, like I show you over here, and this one over here is the multiplication zone lah. Huh? So if you add this up, what will you get? 6 plus 2, that's going to give me 8x, which is not the middle term. Can you see that? If it's not the middle term, this pair of number that you have chosen, it's wrong. Alright, you know that's not correct. So which means you have to choose another pair of number which will multiply to 12. Like in this case, it will be this one. Okay? Alright. So that's our first example over here lah. So now you know why is it wrong. Huh? So in other words, when we are doing factorization, there's going to be a lot of trial and error for the first time when you're exploring it. Now let's explore the second example over here. Now again, I have x squared. So how do I get x squared over here? I'm going to use my table method again. I know it's going to be x times x. There's only one option over here. Now over here, I have 35. Alright. So try to think, what pair of numbers can you multiply together to get 35? Alright. So in your head right now, you might be able to think two pair of numbers. So in my head right now, I have 7 and 5. But some of you might think, oh, 35 times 1, which is true as well, right? So which pair is going to be correct? So again, don't stress about which pair is correct. Just test out the first pair that you are able to think of. Alright. So in this case, it's this one for me. Alright. So I'm going to draw my table out again. Alright, this is the multiplication zone, so let's do that. So that's x squared, and this guy, it's 35, right? So again, I'm going to cross multiply them. So that will give me 7x and 5x. Alright, again, this is the multiplication zone, and over here, this is the addition zone. So let's check over here. To check if this pair of numbers is correct, this and this has to add together to give you the middle term. So true enough, 7x plus 5x, that will give you 12x, which is true. That's the middle term, right? So we have done factorize. So to write our final answer, that's gonna be follow it horizontally. So it's gonna be x plus 7 and x plus 5. Done, factorize. Simple. Okay. So again, if you want to check if this answer is correct, you can always expand this back, right? Because factorization and expanding are just opposites of each other. All right. If this can become this, when I expand this, this should become this as well, right? Okay. So that's gonna be for question 2. Now, question 1 and question 2 are quite simple because we are dealing with all positive numbers. But what about if I have some negative now? What can I do? Alright, so I'm going to show you. It's going to be the same step, but you have to add something to it. Alright, now again, let's look at this. Again, ask yourself, for the first term, what multiplied by what will give you z squared? So that's going to be z multiplied with z, right? Again, over here, what pair of numbers will you multiply to get to -6? Alright, now over here you might start crunching your head like, oh, I can have -3 multiplied with 2, or I can have 3 multiplied with -2, I can have 6 multiplied with -1, or it's -6 multiplied with 1. Oh, there's so many options to try. So which one should I choose, right? If I do trial and error over here, this might take a lot of time, right? But don't worry, I have some strategy for you to utilize over here. So despite of the question is negative, like all this example over here, I would like you to ignore all the negative side. Just treat it as a positive number for now. Because eventually when we form the table over here, the negative will reveal by itself. So I'm going to show you how. So again, the first pair of numbers that I can think of over here is going to be 3 times 2, right? So 3 times 2 will give me 6, right? So I'll write that down first. So I have 3 and 2 over here. All right, ignore the negative for now. So I'm going to draw my line over here, my table. So again, what I'm going to do over on this side, that is the multiplication zone. So I'm going to cross multiply over here. So this side, this times this, that will give me 3z. This times this, that will give me 2z. All right, but what is the middle term that I want? The middle term I want is going to be z, right? The middle term that I want is going to be z. So ask yourself now, I have these two pair of numbers. What can I do with these two pair of numbers in order to get z? I should add some negative somewhere, right? I should add some negative somewhere. But where should I add? All right, because we know this zone is the addition zone, right? So over here, to get this, I'm going to add negative over on this side over here, right? I'm going to add on this side over here. But if I were to add on this side, these two over here should be negative as well, correct or not? So that's why I said the negative in the end will reveal itself through this method. All right, so we can quickly check over here. This is basically 3z plus is the addition zone minus 2z. And true enough, if you expand this, you should get z only, right? So we're done. Okay, so we can just continue to fill up the table. And then now, we can write our final answer. So again, final answer, remember, write it horizontally, okay? Write it horizontally, okay? So that's gonna be z plus 3, and then what I will have here is gonna be z. Don't forget your minus 2. All right, so that's how we're going to solve. All right, that's how we're going to factorize a quadratic expression with some negative over there. So what about this guy over here? So I'm going to do the same thing over here. There's some bunch of negatives over there, so don't worry about it. All right, ignore all the negatives, just solve it normally only. All right, so what do I get here? So y squared, right? What pair of unknowns I should multiply to get y squared? So in this case, there's only one option. That's going to be y multiplied with y. So what pair of number, all right, if I multiply, will give me 6. So again, 6, my first pair of number that I can think of is going to be 3 times 2, right? So I'm going to test that first. So let's just say I have 3 and 2. So let's see what's going to happen, all right? Now don't worry again if you choose a wrong pair, because if you choose a wrong pair of number, after you get the middle term, all right, if you get a wrong pair, you should not get this middle term over here, all right? So don't worry about that. If you get wrong, choose a wrong pair of numbers over here, you can always change later on, right? So let's try with this first. So I'm going to have my table as usual. So I'm going to cross multiply them. Okay, let's see what do I get. Let's see what do I get. So true enough, this is y squared and this is positive 6, right? Now let's see over here what's going to happen, right? Again, okay. So I'm going to multiply this. So this will give me 3y. This multiply with this, that will give me 2y. All right. Now again, ignore the negative sign. 3y plus 2y. Will I eventually get 5? True. All right, I will get 5 over here. But what do I want? I want to have a negative 5y. All right. So in order for me to get negative 5y, what do I have to do with these two numbers? I should add a negative here and a negative here, right? So negative 3y plus bracket negative 2y close bracket, that should give me this, right? So if I were to put a negative over here, this 3 should be negative as well, right? This 2 should be also negative as well, correct or not? But don't be so happy first. Let's check, because this is a positive, but we know that this is a multiplication zone. So negative 3 times true, and it's true enough, we will get positive 6. So which means this over here is the correct answer, all right? So right now, I'm going to write the final answer here. It's going to be y minus 3, and over here, I will have y minus 2. Done. All right? Okay? Last question over here. All right? Whoa, more negatives. Don't worry. Ignore all the negative sign, because the negative will reveal by itself, all right, when we do this method over here, all right? So don't worry about that. What pair of alphabets will multiply together to give you y squared? There's only one option, so y times y, right? So, whoa, I have some 28, some big numbers over here, all right? Again, ignore the negative. Try to think of the first pair of numbers that you can think of that multiplies to 28, all right? There are a few pairs, right? But the first pair of number that I can think of is going to be 7 times 4. So let's try that out. Is that correct or not? If it's wrong, I'm going to change, all right? Because let's say 14 times 2 is also 28, so that might be right, but who knows? Let's check, all right? Try and error. But the first pair of number I can think of 7 and 4. So let's see what's going to happen. Let's hope I get correct. All right. So over here, I will get y squared. All right. Okay. And over here, eventually I need to get negative 28. But like I said again, ignore all the negative sign first. Treat it as positive first. Okay. Right now, let's cross multiply. Let's do this. Let's do this. And over here, I should get this time this, 7y, this time this, 4y. Again, addition zone. Now, 7 and 4. 7, if you minus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you should get 3, right? So over here, I want to get 3y. So for me to get to 3y, I should add some negative somewhere, right? So in this case, it's going to be over here. Make sense or not? Because 7 minus 4y, that's going to give me 3, right? So if I put a negative here, so this 4 is going to be negative as well, right? Alright, it's going to be negative as well, right? So true enough, this times this, that will give me negative 28. See how the negative sign will reveal itself eventually? So what's going to do now? Solve this. So what do I have right now? So my final answer, follow horizontally, is going to be y plus 7. And over here, that's going to be y minus 4. I'm done. Alright. Okay, some students might ask me, teacher, will I get wrong if I were to write my answer like this? Can you see what happened over here? They're just swap place. So the answer is both of these answers are correct. Why? Because when we are multiplying numbers, the order of the number does not matter. Alright? Again, 3 times 2 gives you 6. 2 times 3 gives you 6. You see, the order of the number does not matter. They will still give you the same answer, which means bracket means multiplication, means you can either write your answer in this way or this way. Same thing. Alright, that's all. That's how we factorize a quadratic expression. Okay?